we hear a lot about landscaping. I mean, there's landscape architects, there's landscape designers. It's a very common term. We hear a little bit less about the term foodscaping. Do you mind just sort of explaining why foodscaping?
Gardening is fun and it can be easy, but there are so many plants, right? I don't like pokey things, so I don't want to go into succulents and install and get poked. And if I'm going to put this effort, I want to have it be very efficient and productive. So for me, I do food and I do cut flowers because I want to make sure that every effort, all the dollars spent, comes back and I get something else. So that's kind of the short of it.
Yeah, and I think to me, landscaping, let's hope at least, landscaping as a term gets either broadened or the term changes to something like foodscaping, because, I've seen a bunch of videos on YouTube when I get obsessed and go down like a YouTube rabbit hole of someone who's created what looks to be just an ornamental landscape, except for the fact that every single thing is edible, like sweet potatoes as the shrubs, like that sort of approach. And I'm like, yeah, it's definitely a little more effort, a little more knowledge, but at least you're planting something edible and or I guess ornamental with the cut flower idea as well. To me, just the idea of getting some use out of it outside of just the appearance, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think there's a lot of fear behind growing food. And I think that's where your channel is really instrumental in helping the beginner start, right?
Mm-hmm,
and then you've gone so deep in all these things and provided so much information out there. But I've had people say, now it's too much info. Where do I start? And I think foodscaping is kind of like a really nice way to kind of wedge in, because you don't have to have an orchard. If you're going to plant a tree, plant a fruit tree, right? And it's
there you go.
Simple as that.
How do you do this with your clientele? Like, is this something that you're pitching like as the service? Is, hey, this is like a foodscape garden, or how does that work?
So when people come to me, they already want to grow food. And how I kind of consult is we go on site, we measure, we talk about the sun, all the basics for actual like a successful garden, no matter what you plant. But then we kind of ask the client, how many people are you growing for, right? And then what are your expectations from this garden? Do you want it to be a dedicated garden space? Some people like that. They like it organized. This is their patio that they're going to entertain people, and over there is the garden. Then other people want it to be like especially in California, here in LA, it's an indoor-outdoor feel. So then we'll have this as a really nice patio. We don't really want to go in ground, so let's put citrus trees in nice pretty pots next to your couch that's out there. And so it then becomes an outdoor living space, which is what I love to do. So that's kind of how it kind of works. They already come. So I do think, like you mentioned it earlier, there is this undercurrent wave of adopting and wanting to grow food. And I think the foodscaping, it's really just getting the word out there that you don't have to pick an ornamental tree, right? You can pick whatever you want.
I think the thing that's interesting too, especially since, you're in LA, I'm in San Diego, neither of us are in a more rural area where perhaps there's more space to do this in general. But also, there's the blend of your life and your garden is a little bit tighter in spaces that you're working in, I can only assume, and certainly for myself as well. So it seems like it's a nice way to get someone to buy into this foodscaping idea, is like, hey, look, yes, it's edible, but also it looks beautiful right next to your patio where you have wine with your friends on a Saturday night. So there's no detraction by switching to the edible version.
Yeah, it's really just integrating it and actually making it a lifestyle, right? And I think we've both done that. And our spaces, we've probably jam-packed as much as we can, and we try new things.
I'm definitely,
every year.
I don't think I'm the lifestyle example here, because I go way too hard, but I'm trying to actually make it look more more aesthetic, blended into the life a little more, instead of it looking like a mini farm in my backyard,
Yeah, but that pond area, I think you've done a good way of kind of integrating that, and there's like seating, and so you're sitting inside a farm, or like, bringing that urban farm life. And I think a lot of, I guess, city folk, right, they want a piece of it. And they're afraid that they have to go big and go hard to get that, when really you can start with one box. And so I try to meet clients right where they are. Like, realistically, if you have a full-time job, if you have kids, how much time do you really have to dedicate to that? And
it's like making sure that you don't fail out in your first year or two, to me, seems most important, rather than like, oh, you know, I grew enough food for 40% of my groceries. Like, let's get to that in year 2 or 3. You know, year one, let's get some lemons, you know, let's get some herbs, and you're good to go.
Let's get excited, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's where I think consulting and bringing someone on to do this initial setup for you really helps, because that's the hardest part, right? Is knowing where the sun goes, knowing what soil you need to do, like use or amend.
Yeah. There's a world in which you almost don't need a consultant, but that was the world of the past, or hopefully the future, where it seems like we're in this middle stage where a lot of us just forgot all this knowledge. And then there's some people, like the wise sages, that have learned it and are like passing it on. Because it's like, you know, for me, I've been working out a lot more recently. And yeah, there was a time when I was younger where I was way more plugged into like exercise science and all that. That time is not here right now. And so, I hired a trainer and I just go in and I do whatever he tells me to do. But at the same time, I'm saying like, okay, well, why are you making me do this many sets and reps? Why am I resting this much? And I'm just asking him all the questions so I can get the knowledge back into my brain. And yeah, maybe there's a time in the future where I just do it on my own because I actually know what I'm doing. But again, that time's not there yet. I've like given myself the grace of this first year to just be like, hey, I'll just sort of apprentice under this trainer and learn, you know, and as long as I don't quit, then I'm good. Yeah.
That's definitely the way it is. It's like what I've seen is there's the desire, and then there's the disconnect of overwhelm, and then there's the quit. And so I try to go right there with the overwhelm and say, hold on, you want this big garden? Let's break it up into pieces, bite-sized pieces. Yeah. Then once they're excited, I have people telling me, their moms telling me, can you please stop her from doing more? Like, she's got too many plants. So
yeah. That's how you know you succeeded, though, is the thing. That's amazing.
I just opened the gate, you know? Like, that's all.
They walk through.
Watch the full episode right here and subscribe for more new episodes every single week.